Have you ever woken up feeling stiff, foggy, or just not quite yourself? It's a quiet frustration many of us know too well, especially as the years add up. I used to start my mornings shuffling to the kitchen, hoping a cup of coffee would magically clear the haze. But deep down, I wondered, is this just getting old, or is there something more I could do? I've been there, feeling like my body and mind weren't quite keeping pace with my spirit. It's a lonely kind of struggle that no one talks about, but it's more common than you think. The good news is, it doesn't have to be this way. I discovered that small, simple changes to my morning routine, not complicated or expensive, made all the difference. No pills, no gimmicks, just habits any of us can start tomorrow. In the next few minutes, I'll share 5 easy morning habits that helped me regain strength, clarity, and independence at 94 years young. These are the little rituals that transformed my days and could do the same for you. Imagine waking up with energy, clear-headedness, and a sense of control over your health, no matter your age. You deserve to feel this good every morning. So, what's one small change you're willing to try tomorrow? Let's take this journey together. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. Habit 1. The one glass of water that changed everything. It's funny how something as ordinary as a glass of water can quietly change the course of your life. I wouldn't have believed it myself if you told me, back when I was 75, that the secret to waking up refreshed, less achy, and clear-headed could start with what I drank before the sun even rose. But that's how the best stories begin, isn't it? With something small, so easily overlooked, that ends up making all the difference. Let me take you back to those years. I'd wake up stiff, my fingers swollen and my knees sending out sharp reminders before I'd even managed to swing my feet over the side of the bed. Some mornings, I'd pause for a moment, gathering the courage to stand, knowing that first step would be the hardest. I'd shuffle to the kitchen and, out of habit, pour myself a cup of coffee, hoping it would chase away the cobwebs in my mind. But the fog didn't lift. Sometimes, it only seemed to settle deeper. Maybe you know that feeling, when it's not just your body that moves slower, but your thoughts, too. I remember asking my doctor, "Is this just how it is in your 70s?" She nodded kindly, told me it was normal, and offered some suggestions, most of which involved more pills. I'd already seen enough of those, lined up in their little containers, crowding my countertop. I left her office feeling resigned but not convinced. Something inside me wouldn't accept that the next decade of my life had to be defined by pain and fatigue. So, I started reading, searching, asking questions about why my body felt the way it did and what I could do about it. That's when I stumbled across something both surprising and, in hindsight, so obvious: dehydration. Every night, we lose nearly a liter of water simply by breathing and through our skin. That's 4 cups, gone before the day even begins. And yet, what's the first thing most of us reach for in the morning? Coffee. Not water, not even a sip. Coffee, which dehydrates us further. It was like trying to start a car with no oil. No wonder things weren't running smoothly. I'll admit, I was skeptical. Could the answer be that simple? But something about the science made sense. I read that even mild dehydration can reduce brain function by over 25% in people over 65. That floored me. No wonder my thoughts felt sluggish and my joints screamed with every movement. Dehydration also increases inflammation, which just adds more fuel to the fire when it comes to joint pain and even speeds up the aging process in our brains. So, I decided to experiment on myself. Every night before bed, I'd pour a glass of room temperature water, 16 ounces, nothing fancy. I'd add just a pinch of natural sea salt. Not the regular table salt, and certainly not any flavored powder, just a pinch of mineral-rich salt from the little blue bag in my pantry. And every morning, before I even so much as thought about coffee or breakfast, before I spoke a word to anyone, I would drink the whole thing. It felt odd at first, this private ritual, but I made a promise to myself to stick with it. The changes didn't happen overnight. But within the first week, I noticed something remarkable. My knees didn't ache quite so much. My hands felt less swollen when I reached for the doorknob. And most surprisingly of all, my mind felt clearer by 8 o'clock than it had in years. The world felt a little lighter, a little more within reach. Why the salt? That was the question everyone started asking when I told them about my new habit. The answer is simple. Your body needs electrolytes to absorb water at the cellular level. It's not enough to just drink. Your cells need a little help to pull that hydration in, to restore balance after a long night without fluids. This process is called osmotic absorption, and it's especially important after we've been fasting from both food and water for 8 hours or more. Some mornings, when plain water feels a bit too bland, I add a tiny squeeze of fresh lemon. Not enough to turn it into lemonade, just enough for a hint of brightness. No sugar, no honey, no juice. Anything sweet first thing can trigger an insulin response that makes your body sluggish and interferes with your natural metabolic reset. Water, salt, and sometimes lemon, that's it. I'm not the only one this small act has helped. My dear friend Mary Lou, who lives just down the street, used to suffer from daily headaches and the occasional dizzy spell. She'd tried every remedy the doctor prescribed, but nothing worked. One afternoon over tea, I told her about my water ritual. She laughed and said, "That's too simple to make a difference." But she tried it, more to humor me than anything else, I think. 3 days later, her headaches stopped. A week after that, she called me, her voice giddy, saying, "I woke up and stood up without holding the wall. I feel like myself again." It's not magic, it's biology. Our bodies are desperately thirsty in the morning, and when we ignore that signal, they protest, with fatigue, pain, confusion, and sometimes a heaviness that lingers all day. You don't have to accept that as just getting older. There's a better way, and it starts with a glass of water and a pinch of salt. If you're skeptical, I understand. I was, too. But consider this, water is the single most essential nutrient for every process in your body. Your brain, your joints, your muscles, your heart. It's not a luxury, it's a lifeline. And as we age, our bodies are less efficient at signaling thirst, so we have to be more deliberate, more loving in the way we care for ourselves. What I love about this habit is how gentle it is. There's no pressure, no racing the clock, no feeling like you've fallen behind before the day even begins. Every night, I fill my glass and set it on my nightstand, ready to greet me at dawn. Some mornings, I sit by the window, cradling the cool glass in my hands, watching as the world slowly comes alive. Other times, I walk out onto the porch, feeling the gentle air as I take those first sips. It's a small act of love, a promise to my body that I'll take care of it, just as it has carried me through all these years. It's easy to overlook the little things, to think they don't matter. But over time, these small rituals become the foundation of a good life. They're quiet reminders that we're worth the effort, that even the simplest choices can have a ripple effect, touching not just our own lives but those around us. So tonight, before you go to bed, fill a glass and place it where you'll see it in the morning. Make it easy, make it beautiful. Maybe add a slice of lemon, or use your favorite glass. And when you wake up, before anything else, drink deeply. Don't rush. Notice how your body responds, how the stiffness begins to soften, how your thoughts gather themselves more quickly, how you feel just a bit more ready to greet the day. You deserve that kind of gentle, loving start. And if you find, as I did, that this one simple habit makes you feel a little stronger, a little more alive, then perhaps you'll tell a friend, too. After all, none of us is too old to discover something new about ourselves, or to make a change that truly matters. Sometimes, it begins with just a single glass of water. Habit 2. Let the light in. How morning sunlight restores balance and joy. There was a time, not so many years ago, when mornings used to feel magical to me. I would wake with the first hints of daylight peeking through my curtains, and the whole world seemed washed in promise and hope. I remember standing at my kitchen window, watching the sun climb above the rooftops, painting golden stripes across the floor, feeling almost as if it were lighting a path for me to follow into the day. But then, as the years rolled by, that gentle magic began to fade, almost unnoticed, replaced by a dull tiredness I couldn't explain. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Even though I went to bed at a sensible hour and woke up on time, I found myself sitting at the breakfast table, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, staring out the window at the brightening sky and wondering, why do I feel like I'm watching life from the sidelines? I was there, but not fully present. Just sort of drifting, waiting for the fog in my mind to lift, for the ache in my shoulders to subside, for a spark of joy that never seemed to come on its own anymore. If you've ever felt that, you're not alone. I talked to friends at church, at the grocery store, even my neighbor who'd been an early riser all her life, and nearly everyone nodded in understanding. That's just aging, they'd say. It's part of slowing down. But deep down, something inside me wondered, what if it wasn't just the passing years? What if we'd simply stopped listening to what our bodies needed most at the start of each day? The answer came in the simplest, most unexpected way. A question from my granddaughter, bright-eyed and barefoot, who asked one Sunday morning, "Grandma, why don't you ever sit on the porch in the morning anymore?" She said it so gently, so innocently, but it stopped me in my tracks. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd simply stepped outside to greet the new day, to feel the air and listen to the birds. I'd gotten caught up in routines, too busy, too tired, too distracted, and in the process, I'd left behind something that used to bring me so much quiet joy. That afternoon, I made a promise to myself. Tomorrow morning, I would go outside first thing, just as I used to. When dawn arrived, I wrapped myself in a soft shawl, cradled a cup of tea, and stepped out onto the porch. The air was crisp, the world peaceful. I closed my eyes and let the light touch my face, soaking in the gentle warmth. Within minutes, I felt something shift, a sense of clarity, of being awake, truly awake, that I hadn't felt in years. I stayed there longer than I intended, just breathing, listening, letting my mind wander. When I went back inside, I felt lighter, almost as if someone had opened a window in a stuffy room. It's only later that I learned how much science there is behind this simple pleasure. Our bodies run on a rhythm, a natural clock called the circadian rhythm, that affects not just our sleep, but our mood, digestion, energy, and even how our bodies repair themselves overnight. This rhythm is set every single day by sunlight. Real sunlight, not the harsh glow of kitchen lights or television screens, but the soft, full-spectrum light that only comes from the morning sun. As we get older, our bodies become even more sensitive to these natural signals. Without sunlight, our brains keep producing melatonin, the sleep hormone, even after we're awake. That's why we feel groggy, why our moods dip, and why we sometimes struggle to find the energy to start the day. But just 10 to 15 minutes of morning light is enough to flip that switch, telling your brain, it's time to wake up, to feel good, to get moving. Studies have shown that morning sunlight boosts serotonin, the feel-good brain chemical, by over 40%. That little boost makes it easier to feel hopeful, connected, even joyful. But the magic isn't just in the numbers. It's in how sunlight makes you feel, inside and out. The gentle warmth on your skin, the way the colors seem brighter, the birds singing, the sense that you're part of the world, not just passing through it. Some mornings, I just sit quietly, watching the sky change colors. Other times, I take a stroll around my garden, feeling the dew beneath my feet. Even on cloudy or chilly days, I make it a point to step outside, bundled up if I need to, because I know my body and mind crave that light. I shared this habit with my friend Dolores, who'd battled insomnia for years. She tried every sleep aid, every herbal tea, every bedtime ritual you could imagine, but nothing seemed to work. She'd given up hope of ever sleeping through the night again. One Sunday, after church, I told her about my morning sunlight ritual. She was skeptical. How could sitting outside in the morning fix my sleep at night? But she agreed to try, if only to humor me. That Friday, she called and said, "I fell asleep last night at 9:30 and didn't wake up until sunrise. I can't remember the last time that happened." It became her new favorite part of the day, her coffee on the porch, the sunlight warming her face, her spirit a little brighter with every sunrise. We grew up in a world that prized productivity, that told us to stay busy, to get things done, to save rest for later. But I've learned, after all these years, that the real foundation of a good day is how we begin it. Not in a rush, not in the dark, but gently, with the sun as our companion. I like to think of sunlight as a daily blessing, a gentle nudge from the universe reminding us we're still here, able to experience beauty and hope. For me, the ritual is simple. Within 30 minutes of waking, I make a point to go outside. No sunglasses, no looking at my phone, no distractions. I let the light touch my eyes, which is important, because it's the special receptors in our retinas that send the wake-up signal to our brain. Some mornings, I stand quietly, just breathing. Other days, I do a few gentle stretches, feeling my body slowly come alive. On cold mornings, I wrap myself in a blanket and sit on my porch swing, sipping tea. On rainy days, I tuck myself under the eaves, listening to the patter of drops, and watch the world soften in the mist. The most beautiful part? This habit costs nothing, requires no equipment, and is available to everyone, no matter where you live or how old you are. If you live in an apartment, open your window, let the light in, and breathe the morning air. If you have a garden or a porch, claim it as your sacred space. Invite a neighbor to join you, or simply share the quiet with your thoughts. Some mornings, I say a little prayer of gratitude. Other days, I listen to the world wake up, feeling connected to something bigger than myself. Over time, this simple act has brought color back into my life, both literally and figuratively. My mood is steadier, my sleep more restful, my mind clearer. I feel a sense of belonging again, both to myself and to the world. That heaviness I once carried, the sense of waiting for the day to begin, has been replaced by gentle anticipation, a quiet joy in the ordinary moments. So tomorrow when you wake, I encourage you. Open the front door, step outside, and let the sunlight greet you. Stand for a moment, eyes closed, and feel the day's first warmth on your skin. Let your mind wander, your spirit lift, and remember, no matter your age, no matter how many mornings you've seen, there is always beauty waiting for you at sunrise. Let the light in, and let it restore your sense of balance and joy. Your heart, your mind, and your body will thank you. Habit 3. Just 4 minutes to keep your mind sharp. The morning brain ritual that changed everything. It's strange how the mind can sometimes feel like a vast, quiet room with doors that used to open easily but now stick or creak, as if time itself had grown heavy on the hinges. I remember the first time I walked into the kitchen and forgot why I was there. It seemed so silly. I'd been going in and out of that room for decades, always sure-footed, always with a purpose. Yet that morning, I stood by the refrigerator, puzzled, staring at the magnets and photos as if they held the answer. The memory came back, eventually, a grocery list, or maybe the kettle for tea, but a small seed of worry had been planted. Was I losing my edge? Was this what everyone talked about when they whispered about getting old? It wasn't just me. At church, in line at the pharmacy, over cards at my neighbor's kitchen table, I heard the same quiet confessions. Names slip away so quickly. I lose track of what I'm doing. Some days, I feel like I'm fading. These weren't the forgetfulnesses of youth, the harmless lapses we once shrugged off. These felt different. There was a quiet fear behind them, as if losing one small memory might open the floodgates to a deeper loss. The stories of our lives, the faces of those we love, the very thread that ties us to who we are. At first, I tried to ignore it. I made jokes about senior moments, wrote more lists, and carried sticky notes like a security blanket. But denial is a poor shield, and the unease grew. I wanted to feel like myself again. Capable, confident, sharp. So, like I often do when life presents a problem, I started searching for answers, determined to find some way, any way, to keep my mind strong and clear. It was during one of those restless nights, flipping through an article about brain health, that I stumbled on something simple, almost too simple. Scientists said the mind is in a special state in the early morning, more open to forming new connections, to learning, to memory. It's called plasticity, they said, and it peaks just after waking, while the world is still quiet and the day hasn't swept you into its busyness. I read that even just 4 focused minutes in the morning could spark changes in the brain, nourishing it, strengthening it, like a gardener watering tender shoots. 4 minutes. I could spare 4 minutes. So I made myself a promise. Every morning, before the news, before chores, before the world knocked at my door, I would give those 4 minutes to my mind. I started small, following a simple sequence I crafted just for myself. First, I would solve a basic math problem. Not too hard, just enough to wake up that logical part of my brain. Sometimes it was 12 plus 15, sometimes 7 times 8. I'd whisper the answer aloud, just to hear myself think. Next, I'd close my eyes and recall a memory in detail. The sound of my daughter's laughter, the scent of my mother's kitchen, the way the sunlight fell on my wedding day. I'd let the images swell, colors and voices and feelings, reminding myself how much was still alive inside me. Then, I'd learn 4 new words, sometimes from a calendar, sometimes from a crossword, just leafing through a book. I'd say them out loud, play with them in a sentence, marvel at how a single new word could make the world feel bigger. Finally, I'd visualize my day. I'd picture myself moving through it, strong, confident, meeting each moment with calm. I'd see myself greeting neighbors, cooking breakfast, tending my garden, and feeling grateful and capable. At first, it felt a little awkward, a ritual I did for myself alone, with no one watching. But soon it became a cherished part of my morning, as important as my tea or my gentle stretches. Something remarkable began to happen. I noticed my memory returning, as if the fog was slowly burning away. I remembered names at church, I followed conversations with more ease, and I found the right words instead of letting them dangle on the tip of my tongue. My friend Carolyn, who's a few years younger and always quick to notice change, asked one morning at breakfast, "You seem sharper lately. What's your secret?" I told her about my 4-minute ritual. She laughed, shaking her head, but the next week she was doing it too. Writing numbers on napkins, sharing new words she'd learned, challenging me to recall old stories from our childhoods. It became a game between us, a gentle encouragement, and soon even her doctor noticed how her mind seemed brighter, more resilient, as she recovered from surgery. Science, I learned, backs this up. In the morning, our brains are flooded with a natural fertilizer called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which helps neurons grow and connect. It's a window of opportunity that closes quickly, but if we use it wisely, it keeps our minds supple, awake, and resistant to decline. It isn't about being perfect or solving riddles meant for geniuses. It's about showing up for yourself every day and tending the most precious garden you own, your mind. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. You don't need fancy gadgets or subscription apps or complicated puzzles. Just a notepad, a pen, maybe a quiet corner by the window where the light is soft and the world feels calm. I keep a small brain journal beside my breakfast chair, where I jot down my numbers, my memories, my new words, and my vision for the day. Over time, the pages have filled with color, lists of wildflowers I remember from hikes, little snippets of poetry, the birthdays of great-grandchildren, recipes, and dreams. Each entry is a small act of defiance against the notion that age has to mean decline. There's a confidence that comes from knowing you are still growing, still learning, still alive to the possibilities of each day. I've seen it in my friends, in my neighbors, even in my grandchildren, who marvel at grandma's brain games, and sometimes join me for a round. We laugh, we stumble, we learn. It's not about getting everything right, it's about celebrating what we can still do, together. If you're feeling hesitant, if you worry it's too late, let me tell you, it's not. 4 minutes is all it takes to begin. Before the chores, before you check your phone, before the day sweeps you along, give yourself this gift. Stand in the quiet, open your mind, and see what new connections might take root. Some days will be easy, some days harder, but each day you'll find a little more light shining in. A sharp mind isn't just for the young. It's for anyone willing to nurture it, to challenge it, to believe that life still has new lessons to offer. I'm proof of that, and so are all the friends who've joined me on this journey. We are never too old to grow. Never too old to remember. Never too old to become who we want to be, one morning and one memory at a time. Habit 4. Move with grace, the gentle morning routine that keeps you independent. Some truths about growing older sneak up on you, quietly and unexpectedly. For most of my life, I never thought much about getting up from a chair, bending down to tie my shoes, or reaching up to put a bowl away. Movement was something I took for granted, a background rhythm, as natural as breathing. But then, almost overnight, those ordinary acts began to demand my attention. A pinch in my back, a wobble in my step, the sting of frustration when, one morning, I couldn't pull on a pair of socks without sitting down and catching my breath. The world becomes a little smaller when movement gets hard. The staircase you used to climb with a basket of laundry feels longer. The garden bed you tended for years starts to look daunting. The freedom to go where you want, when you want, slips quietly away. For me, it was a subtle but growing fear. What if I lost my independence? What if I couldn't trust my own body to do the things I loved, to carry me through the simplest parts of my day? If you've ever felt that fear, know you're not alone. I remember sitting with my friend Nancy, who was a few years older and, in her words, stubborn as a mule. She was the picture of self-sufficiency. Her whole life, raised a family, mowed her lawn, baked bread from scratch every Saturday. But last year, after a fall in the bathroom, she found herself relying on a walker, shuffling from bedroom to kitchen, discouraged by every creak and twinge. "Is this it?" she asked me one morning, her voice soft with worry. "Is this just what happens now?" That question sat with me long after our coffee cups were empty. I'd already noticed my ohanges, stiffness that settled in my knees, a sense of imbalance when I turned too quickly, the way my hands gripped the countertop a little tighter than before. For years, I believed stretching was the answer. I dusted off an old VHS yoga tape from the 90s, twisted and bent as the instructor led me through familiar poses. But afterwards, I felt worse. My back protested, my neck ached, and I wondered if I was doing more harm than good. Finally, in a moment of frustration, I reached out to a physical therapist who specialized in older women. She listened carefully, asked questions about my daily routines, and gently explained something that changed everything. The stretches you did in your 40s aren't always safe now. Our joints lose moisture, connective tissues become less flexible, and our spine needs more protection. Movement is essential, but it must be gentle and smart, tailored to what your body needs today, not what it could do decades ago. With her guidance, I learned about a new way to move, a gentle morning routine designed specifically for older bodies. It's not about pushing yourself to exhaustion or aiming for fancy fitness goals. It's about preparing your body for the day ahead, keeping your muscles awake, your joints fluid, and your confidence strong. I call it my inside-out mobility sequence, and it takes just 7 minutes each morning. But those 7 minutes have given me back a freedom I feared I'd lost. Let me walk you through my ritual. I always begin in a sturdy chair, sitting tall, my feet flat on the floor. The first movement is simple: shoulder circles. I let my arms rest at my sides and slowly draw small circles forward, then backward. At first, the movement feels almost trivial, but it warms my shoulders, bringing life back to joints that have spent the night resting. The circles loosen the tightness that likes to gather there, especially after years spent hunched over desks, stoves, or little ones. Next comes seated marching. Still in my chair, I lift one knee, then the other, as if I'm marching in a slow parade. I go at my own pace, breathing deeply, feeling my core engage and my hips wake up. This movement reminds my legs that they're strong, that they still have important work to do. It gets the blood flowing. Sometimes I can almost feel my feet getting warmer, the sensation spreading upward as I continue. From there, I move to the doorway chest expansion. I stand carefully, place my hands at shoulder height on either side of a doorway, and gently lean forward until I feel a stretch across my chest. I hold it, breathing in, remembering all the years spent hunching forward, knitting, cooking, reading, and savor the feeling of my shoulders gently rolling back. This single stretch helps open my heart and lungs, encouraging better posture and deeper breaths. After that, I make my way to the kitchen counter for supported squats. Holding lightly to the edge for balance, I bend my knees just a little and then return to standing. I don't go deep, just enough to remind my thighs and glutes that they are my body's powerhouse, the foundation for everything I do. Over time, this simple movement has helped me climb stairs more easily, carry groceries with less struggle, and even stand up from the sofa with a bit of grace. Finally, I return to my chair for seated ankle circles. I lift one foot, rotating my ankle slowly in both directions, then switch to the other. These tiny movements help improve my balance and circulation, and they're a secret weapon against those dreaded morning foot cramps. 7 minutes. That's all it takes. No floor mats, no fancy clothes, no straining or pushing past pain. Just a quiet, mindful practice of waking up my body, honoring where I am, and celebrating what I can do. The changes were subtle at first. My steps felt steadier. I stopped clinging to the banister as tightly. My knees greeted the morning with less grumbling. The biggest shift, though, was in my sense of self. I felt empowered, more at home in my body, less fearful of a stumble or a fall. I started gardening again, kneeling to pull weeds, tending to my flowers. I carried laundry up and down the stairs. I reclaimed not just movement, but a sense of independence that felt like coming home. Nancy, inspired by my progress, tried the routine herself. She committed to 2 weeks, just to see what would happen. Soon, she was moving around her house without the walker, her voice bright with excitement. "I feel like my body finally woke up," she told me, her spirit shining through the phone. For so many of us, aging is presented as a narrowing of possibilities, a shrinking of what we can do, where we can go, who we can be. But I have learned, through this gentle routine, that movement is a gift that doesn't have to leave us behind. Our bodies are older, yes, but they are still wise, still eager to serve us if we show them care and kindness. So, tomorrow morning, before you rush into your day or reach for your phone, I invite you to join me. Set aside just 7 minutes. Move with grace and gentleness. Remember, this isn't about vanity or chasing youth. It's about dignity, about the freedom to care for yourself, to live life on your own terms. Your independence is worth fighting for, and sometimes all it takes is a new beginning at sunrise. Move with grace. Your body, your spirit, and your sense of self will thank you for it. Habit 5. Feed your strength, the breakfast that keeps you standing tall. It's often said that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. For years, I thought this was just another old saying, a leftover from my childhood when my mother would serve up a bowl of oatmeal and insist I eat every bite before heading off to school. Back then, breakfast was simply routine, a box to check. But as I grew older, especially after retirement, my mornings slowed down and my relationship with food changed. Sometimes breakfast was just a banana and a cup of coffee. Other times, it was a slice of toast with jam, something light and quick so I could get on with my day. I thought I was making the healthy choice. Eat less, stay light, avoid the heavy stuff. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But somewhere along the way, I began to notice a change. By mid-morning, I'd feel weak, a kind of tiredness that settled into my bones and left me reaching for another cup of coffee just to keep going. My arms felt softer, my grip weaker, and the grocery bags I used to carry so easily now seemed to weigh twice as much. There was a quiet frustration every time I had to ask for help with a jar or struggled to carry a basket of laundry upstairs. I knew about the aches and pains of aging, but this was different. It was as if my strength was slipping away, day by day, and I didn't know how to get it back. My doctor was gentle but honest. As we get older, she said, our bodies don't build muscle as easily. You need more protein, not less, and you need it in the morning. She called it anabolic resistance, a natural part of aging where our muscles become stubborn, requiring more nourishment to stay healthy and strong. The timing, she explained, was as important as the amount. A good dose of protein within the first hour of waking gives your body the best chance to build and repair muscle. I was skeptical. Protein for breakfast? Wasn't that just for bodybuilders? The idea seemed foreign and, frankly, a little intimidating. But I was tired of feeling weak, tired of feeling as if the world was getting heavier while I grew smaller. So I decided to try. My breakfast changed. Instead of just toast or fruit, I began my day with 2 scrambled eggs, soft and warm, sometimes with a sprinkle of chives from my garden. I added half a cup of cottage cheese, creamy and tangy, filling me up in a way nothing else could. Sometimes, on chilly mornings, I'd enjoy a bowl of Greek yogurt mixed with a scoop of protein powder, a handful of blueberries, and a sprinkle of walnuts. If I were feeling adventurous, I'd blend a smoothie, almond milk, a scoop of collagen powder, half a frozen banana, and a few ice cubes to keep it cool. At first, it felt like a lot, but I listened to my body. I noticed something remarkable almost right away. The shaky feeling that used to creep in around 10 o'clock disappeared. My energy lasted through the morning and into the afternoon. My muscles, once so quick to fatigue, started to feel steadier and more reliable. It was as if I'd given my body the fuel it needed to start the day with confidence. There's a real science behind this, something I wish I'd known sooner. Researchers at Tufts University found that adults over 60 who consume 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein within the first hour of waking maintain stronger grip strength, better balance, and lose muscle much more slowly, no matter what they eat the rest of the day. It's not about eating a giant steak for breakfast or overhauling your entire diet. It's about being intentional, about feeding your muscles what they need when they're most receptive. I shared this habit with my friend Viola, one of the sharpest, most graceful women I know. A few years ago, she found herself unable to lift her grocery bags or keep up with her great-grandchildren at the park. Her doctor told her to exercise, but the problem wasn't just movement, it was fuel. Viola switched from her usual toast and jam breakfast to eggs and a side of yogurt. Within a month, she called me, her voice bubbling with joy. I feel strong again. I feel like myself. That's the power of a breakfast designed not just to fill you up, but to feed your strength. But there's a rhythm to it, I've learned, one that makes this habit even more effective. I always do my gentle morning movement first, just 7 minutes to wake up my joints and muscles. Moving first increases blood flow, priming the body to absorb and use the protein from breakfast. It's like preparing the soil before planting a seed. Movement, then fuel. It's a pairing that's brought back so much of my vitality. Of course, not all breakfasts are created equal. For a long time, I thought a bowl of cereal or a muffin was enough. But these sugary starts left me crashing before noon. Now, I avoid sweet cereals, fruit juices, and pastries in the morning. They offer a burst of energy, yes, but it fades quickly, leaving me more tired than before. Instead, I stick with real, nourishing food: eggs, yogurt, cottage cheese, nuts, and sometimes a slice of whole grain toast with almond butter if I'm craving something extra. There are mornings when I still want something simple. On those days, I'll mix protein powder into a glass of milk or blend it into a quick smoothie. It's not about perfection. It's about making the best choice I can, honoring my body's needs, and giving myself a strong foundation for the day. I know that for some, making changes to breakfast can feel overwhelming. Maybe you've been eating the same meal for years, or you worry about your appetite. My advice is to start small. Add an egg to your usual routine. Swap the jam for a little cottage cheese. Sprinkle some walnuts on your oatmeal. Each step is a gift to your future self, a quiet investment in the strength that will keep you independent and vibrant, no matter your age. I remember the first time I carried my groceries from the car to the kitchen without stopping for a rest. It was a small victory, one that filled me with pride and a sense of possibility. That's what a good breakfast offers, not just nourishment, but confidence. The ability to greet the day with your head held high, to reach for a grandchild, to tend your garden, to move through the world on your own 2 feet. If you're reading this and wondering whether it's too late to make a difference, let me assure you, it's never too late. Every day is a new chance to feed your strength, to reclaim the energy and resilience that belongs to you. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for your coffee or that slice of toast, pause and ask yourself, what does my body need to stand tall today? Listen to the answer. Try something new. Your muscles are listening. Your spirit is listening. Feed your strength, and you'll find yourself standing a little taller, walking a little farther, and living each day with a kind of independence and joy that makes every sunrise worth celebrating. You are not just eating breakfast. You are choosing to stand tall, for yourself and for all the moments that matter. As the sun sets on another day, I find myself reflecting on the simple yet powerful choices that shape how I live and how I feel. These 5 morning habits have been more than routines. They've become acts of love toward myself, gentle promises that I'm still here, still growing, still strong. From the first glass of water that wakes my body, to the morning light that fills my soul, the mindful moments with my mind, the graceful movement that keeps me steady, and the nourishing breakfast that fuels my strength. Each piece fits together like a puzzle, creating a picture of health and independence. I want you to know that no matter your age or where you are in your journey, it's never too late to start. Your body is listening, your mind is ready, and your heart is open. You deserve mornings filled with clarity, energy, and peace. You deserve to stand tall with confidence and grace. If this video has touched your heart, I encourage you to share which habit you'll try first. Leave a comment below, because your story matters, and your voice can inspire others walking the same path. And if you found hope here today, please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue this journey together. Remember, every morning is a new beginning. Let's greet it with kindness, courage, and the joy of knowing we're never too old to live our best life.